stressed. I just couldn't bear it because, you know, I was doing the book as well and I just didn't have any time and I was organising it all myself and I was doing Loose Women and I was doing all these things and I think the last day I was at Loose Women I threw a proper wobbly because I thought, oh no, what if no one turns up? You know, I'm going to have this party in Bangkok, I'm going to be sitting there on my own, it's going to be a nightmare. But no, it was fantastic.
Because I've never seen you like that. You're a very calm person, you shouldn't worry about much.
So it was everything you wanted, was it?
It was, it really was. It was more than that, actually. It turned out to be better than I expected it to be, and everybody said it was the greatest party ever, so that will do me for a year.
Life is really good for you at the moment, which we'll talk about in a minute, but the book obviously goes back to your childhood.
Yes.
And the thing I got from reading this is that, you know, your father left when you were very young, 4, I think.
Yeah.
And your mum brought you and your brothers and sisters up, 4 of you,
yes,
alone. And she clearly struggled financially, but it seems reading this that you were all unaware of that. You had a really happy time.
Yeah, we honestly didn't know. We didn't really... You know, there was an incident where I kind of realised the extent of how sort of poor we were, and that was when we used to have to go down to the court to pick up the maintenance money. And, you know, quite often it wasn't there. And I remember one day, me and my sister went down there and we came back and my mum was working part-time in a pub and we went to deliver the bad news. And I had no idea at the time that this was bad news. It's just like, oh, whatever we went down there for wasn't there. And I remember my mum just bursting into tears at the news and my sister just said, it wasn't there, Mum. My mum was standing behind the counter, just standing, she said, and she just broke down. She said, what am I going to do? And I just thought, well, I don't know. Why are you asking me? I don't know. I don't know. And I started crying. We all started crying. And then I kind of realised that we didn't have much money. But at most of the time, you didn't really, you know, there was always food on the table. You know,
you were eating food that was stolen by the dog.
Yeah, there was an incident where, you know, we had one joint of meat a week and, you know, it was usually a shoulder of lamb because that would make like 3 or 4 dinners. And one Sunday, the dog actually did nab the shoulder of lamb, take it out into the garden, have a good old munch on it. And my mum found it, was horrified, like, oh, my God, we've got no food. She retrieved it from the dog, washed it under the tap, and made it into a shepherd's pie with the bones as well.
And you're still here?
And I'm still here. You see, a bit of dirt, this is what my mum used to say, a bit of dirt, never hurt no one. That's
so what
say.
was your mum's attitude towards boys, then, for you?
Well, you know, my mum was a real disciplinarian, you know, and I was really not terrified of her because, you know, I had huge respect for her and I never wanted to let her down or upset her. I probably did a couple of times, but a couple, probably more than that. But, you know, I was always aware that she let us be ourselves. You know, she let us make mistakes, she let us grow up.
So what was she thinking about the life that you ended up, I mean, you say that sex was fantastic. You lost your virginity at 14 to a man you described as a troll.
Well, he did look like a troll.
So you weren't that fussy then?
No, I wasn't. No. No, then I wasn't. No, because at the time, it was the 70s, you know, that was 1974, and
everyone was going out with trolls.
No, not necessarily trolls, but no, I was on a mission to lose my virginity. It was just, you know, with the girls at school, it was just something that we did, and I went to this disco and I didn't care who it was, and, you know, this guy came over, said, want to go outside? I said, yeah, and that was it.
Come outside.
Come outside.
So looking back on that part of your life when you were being pretty promiscuous...
Yeah, I was, yeah.
I mean, a fairly dangerous thing to do for a number of reasons. I mean, would you have played it any differently, or is that... you're happy with that stage of your life?
Well, yeah, I wouldn't recommend it, and I wouldn't say, you know, to kids now, go and do that, because, well, now it's different. You know, there are terrible things around that can kill you if you're overly promiscuous and you're not taking the right precautions. So in the 70s, you know, you didn't really have that much to worry about. But I don't look back and think, oh, I wish I'd done it differently, because if I had it done, I would be different now, and I wouldn't be me. And no, it wasn't a good idea, and it does... I'm not boasting about it and saying, you know, it was great to be promiscuous in the 70s, but that's how it was. So, you know, I live with it and I get on with it, and it's fine. And, you know, as regards my mum, she probably did have a good idea what was going on, but I think she trusted me enough not to get myself into serious trouble, like get pregnant and, you know, end up marrying the boy next door and having
no
life.
You didn't marry the boy next door.
Was that a good idea?
Marrying Chris Evans.
Yes.
Was it a good idea? It seemed like a good idea at the time. No, you know, with hindsight, everything's so easy with hindsight, isn't it? And I do say in the book that I don't regret it at all, because again, it's one of those things. And
well, you talk about fantastic times you had and what a great fun you had.
God, we just had such good times, you know, and that was the problem, Ruth. We wanted to get back to those times, and it was like, well, what can we do? You know, oh, let's get married. So we got married, thinking that, you know, that would make it all right and we would all be happy again. But, you know, it kind of made it worse. So
it's like you weren't making each other happy, but you couldn't resist each other.
No, we couldn't keep away from each other like magnets.
It's a dangerous combination sometimes.
It is, yeah. And we were both very headstrong and, you know, very sort of extrovert and... You know, I mean, he said that we split up because I wanted to be the lead singer in the band and the band needed to split, which isn't true. I mean, I didn't actually. I was right behind him. I supported him and I looked after him. And actually, I was quite a good wife, believe it or not. You know, I liked staying at home and doing the laundry and walking the dog and doing all of that stuff. But in the end, it had to go. But you know, with hindsight, yes, it's easy. Probably the day after we got married, we should have annulled it or something, because, you know, I kind of knew in my head that it was probably a mistake. But you go along with things. And I learned a brilliant lesson from all of that, because, you know, I know for sure that I'll never get myself into that kind of pickle again. I mean, I am older and wiser now, obviously, but I wasn't young then. I was 31.
Well, who's the singer in the band now with Mark? He's 18 years younger than you.
He is 22 years younger.
22 years.
Yeah,
younger.
No, he's 28. Yeah.
So how does that work then?
Well, you know, Mark is a really shy person. He doesn't like the limelight. You know, he gets really nervous if he has to go up a red carpet with me. You know, he doesn't want all of that, so he's really happy for it. You know, at the same time, I was like that with Chris. I didn't want to be in the spotlight. I didn't want to have my picture taken at premieres and things like that. And neither does Mark, but he does, because obviously, you know, he's supporting me. But no,
he supported you, right? You know, writing this book. There's you wrapped in your favourite slanket.
Yeah,
I don't know what a slanket is. It's a blanket with arms, of which Carol has become very fond of her. Do you know, Mark got used to seeing you wrapped in it for months.
Yeah, he did. It was more like, that was like a comfort thing, and also it was like strength, you know, like you give yourself strength. And like, if I wrap myself in this thing, which you put your arms through, and then you wrap yourself, you can't get up and walk, because if you do, you fall over. It goes right up under your feet.
So you imprisoned yourself?
I did, yeah. And I thought, if I do this, I have to sit down and write, because, you know what it's like. It's really difficult. You can sit down to write, and then for hours you can do nothing. You know, you can find something else to do. You can go and, you know, inspect your teeth in the mirror, or look for grey hairs.
You say that... Oh, God, that wouldn't take me very long. You say that on your computer you've always had the file that said books, things that you've started to write and never quite finished it. So this was the one waiting to be written.
Well, it's always the first book, isn't it? You know, they do say start with what you know, and obviously I do know myself quite well. And when I was asked to do it, I mean, it's always been on my list of things to do. My New Year's resolutions list, going back to like 1980 or something, has always said write a book. And I've started them, and I've thought, well, I might write a book about this. But I've never had the motivation, you know, the real motivation, like someone saying to me, do you want to write a book? Here's the deadline. And that's what actually did it. Oh, it was scary.
And you wrote it yourself, no ghostwriters?
Absolutely, every single word.
Are there any books left in the book file on your computer now? Have you got other stuff you want to do?
Yeah, quite a few, actually, yeah. And, you know, this has given me the impetus to try and do another one.
You know, the book is a great read, but, you know, one of my favourite things is these pictures on the